Well, you can explain what we're doing now.
Well, there was an article released today by the Premier League talking, which I thought would go through because I thought it was quite interesting stuff. So it's talking about why have obviously the revolution of our midfield. Obviously, everyone knows, unless you've been living under a rock, Spurs have spent 180 million around, 185 million.
No chance. Never in a million years would that happen.
Well, it has. Correct me if I'm wrong. We have spent 185 million on Tonali and Fernandes.
That's not happening. Not at Tottenham. Not at Tottenham. Well, you must be talking about PSG or Real Madrid.
I would check the official website if I were you. The question is, why have we decided to spend so much money on those players? What are they going to bring to the midfield? How much better are they than what we currently have at Tottenham Hotspur? And the Premier League have done a really nice article with some really nice graphics and some stats to kind of explain what Fernandes and Tonali are going to bring to Tottenham Hotspur and what the difference is between what we're bringing in and what we have already. So the first graph, they're talking about obviously the pressing stats and ball recoveries and that kind of stuff. So we know De Zerbi likes his team to be high pressing, likes to be full of energy, full of intensity. So looking at where do Tonali and Fernandes rank among kind of those players. In fact, the one right at the top is Conor Gallagher when it comes to the last season. High turnovers on the left, on the bottom axis, ball recoveries. So Conor Gallagher right at the top. But you see, on this one, Fernandes and Tonali actually rank quite similarly to Sarr and Bentancur around the middle, but still one of the top performers. Paulinho and Gray actually quite low down. But I guess the question would that be, could he get more? We know Tonali and Fernandes are very physical players. They like to get involved in duels. I do think he can get those numbers up. Obviously, Conor Gallagher, this is obviously one of the reasons why we signed Conor Gallagher, because he's such a great presser. And I think that obviously graph shows how great of a presser he is and what maybe he's going to bring to De Zerbi next season. But yeah, I mean, he's in that graph, it doesn't quite show any difference. He's just quite similar to Bentancur and Pape Sarr. I reckon he can get those numbers up. Obviously, you've got Fernandes not playing for a high pressing team as well with that. Tonali, a bit different. But Tonali
Pape's a good presser anyway.
Yeah, Pape's a good presser.
Pape's a good presser.
Yeah. Bentancur a bit lower with the high turnovers, but ball recoveries is quite good. So they perform fairly well when it comes to Premier League midfielders in general. Obviously, you can see all those purple dots there. They're actually performing quite well when it comes to the general Premier League midfielders in that sense. But this is where they really stand out. If you're looking at on the ball, right? You're looking at how they pass the ball. Forward-thinking passes. You go to the next scatter graph. This is why we've brought them in. So they've dotted all our midfielders. So the left axis is the entries into the final third, and the bottom axis is passes completed per 90. So as
you've got to remember as well, by the way, this is Matias Fernandes playing under Nuno Espirito Santo as well.
Correct. So you got to caveat it with a different kind of, different team. De Zerbi's going to obviously get more possession, more passes out of them, hopefully get them passing forward more as well. But as you can see, Tonali and Fernandes way out in front when compared to our current set of midfielders when it comes to especially final third entries. It's a significant improvement. When it comes to obviously passes completed, only Bentancur is better than Fernandes, but Tonali obviously outranks all our midfielders from final third entries and passes completed. And this is by, as you mentioned with Fernandes, passes completed, the amount for a West Ham team who are obviously also within relegation battle and as well not the most possession-based team. They don't see as much of the ball. Yeah. There he is performing quite significantly better. And as well, when it comes to the Premier League kind of overall, you can see with the purple dots, Tonali performing quite well when compared to the rest of the Premier League. Fernandes, a bit more average, maybe slightly above average, I would say, when it comes to that. But you can see it's so much better on the passing forward, isn't it?
It is 100%. It's worlds away, to be honest. But it's mad that Conor Gallagher is down the bottom for final third entries when he's been like number 10.
I know, it's crazy, isn't it? He needs to really work on that 100%. Conor Gallagher, but what's also
How the
significant?
hell is Pat João Palhinha the highest one there as well, out of all our current midfielders?
I think it's a good question. I think it just goes to show how poor everyone has been performing from that aspect. I think what's really telling in this graph, obviously Fernandes and Tonali are way out in front, but also first of all, how clumped together all our midfielders are, all performing fairly similarly, and how low down they are compared to the rest of the Premier League.
Yeah.
Very average, really, really poor, but you can see Fernandes and Tonali makes a major difference. So they're going to get the ball into the final third way more often, and also they're going to probably complete more passes as well than the rest of our midfielders. So you can see major difference compared to what we have, compared to what is on offer right now in our current midfield. So definitely we've seen one of the big concerted efforts from De Zerbi this window. It's been very, very clear, is getting midfielders who are comfortable on the ball and getting players, in general. You've seen that with Van Hecke, Senesi. They're the top passers in the league. And now you're looking at Fernandes and Tonali, who are just so much better and more comfortable on the ball than our current midfielders. And I think that's what De Zerbi's really valued. I think we've seen in our team over the last couple of years, that especially just on the ball, we have really, really struggled to progress the ball, keep the ball in difficult spaces, just be comfortable, especially when being pressed. And I think these players are definitely going to make a big difference for sure.
Yeah, and you don't really lose anything off the ball as well.
Exactly,
having them in,
which we saw in the last graph. Very similar.
Yeah. So I mean, it marries the both two together, which we've just been desperate for so long at Tottenham Hotspur. So that's why I think these guys are really the right midfielders to go for. And I think them two, they're going to work so well together. They really were. And I think they can both take turns, can't they, in going forward, staying back. They're both just so energetic, get around the pitch so well. Lee said that Tonali, it's like he's got 4 lungs. I mean, how many times have we said that about someone like Decky? You know what I mean? Just never stop running throughout a whole game. And I think Fernandes is very similar in that aspect as well.
Both of them incredible stamina, but so much better on the ball than what we have. This next one is, again, comparing statistically, like some of the passing stats. It's interesting, it's not only it's comparing our midfielders. It's Tonali, Fernandes last season compared to our midfielders last season, and as well, they've added McAllister and Caicedo, how they performed when they were at Brighton under De Zerbi. So that, I think, is quite interesting. So, as you can see, the stats of our midfielders when it comes to final third passes, not this one, no, other one. Yeah. When it comes to final third passes, they're way out in front, but actually not quite as good as McAllister and Caicedo. But maybe what it's showing is what it could look like under De Zerbi, how much higher these maybe stats could be. That's what it's going to be more in line with. But yeah, obviously way out in front when it compared to Sarr, Gray, Palhinha, Bentancur. They're much higher than them. Not quite as good as McAllister, Caicedo. 4 passes per game again. Apart from Palhinha, actually, who surprisingly is higher than Fernandes. Tonali and Fernandes are way out in front again. Then Sarr, Gray and Bentancur again. And also Tonali more than McAllister and Caicedo when they were at Brighton. So again, I think he can get those numbers up even more, I feel like, when he gets into De Zerbi's system. Open play, pass accuracy. Fernandes actually topping this one. Tonali fairly low, but still higher than any of our midfielders. But you can see McAllister and Caicedo, their passing accuracies are much higher. So I think Fernandes and Tonali, when they have more options, when De Zerbi ball is in full flight, you'll see that passing accuracy go to more McAllister and Caicedo levels. And then this one's quite interesting. Possessions won in the final third. Tonali and Fernandes, good. One every other game, I guess, which is, way out in front compared to Gray, Palhinha, Bentancur. But again, when it compared to McAllister, Caicedo, not quite as high. So I think it's going to be interesting to see when he gets... Obviously, it's interesting to compare them to midfielders who were already in the De Zerbi system and comparing them to our midfielders last season. Obviously, we struggled on a lot of different aspects, or tactically, possession-based, getting the players forward, all that kind of stuff. But that's obviously what you're aiming for, where McAllister and Caicedo are at. And they're actually not that far off that anyway. And so when you put them under De Zerbi, you know, considering they're not far off that anyway, I think they're going to be more in line with where you see McAllister and Caicedo.
I think they could even surpass it, to be honest. You're looking at Fernandes playing in a Nuno West Ham system, and the numbers aren't, I mean, they're not as good, but they're not too dissimilar in some of the stats. You've got Tonali as well, and I think they're going to have a better team around them as well than what they had at Brighton. So I think that these numbers for Tonali and Fernandes could surpass what we're seeing here for McAllister and Caicedo.
And it's mad to think that how out in front Fernandes is compared to our current midfielders, considering, yeah, obviously we didn't play in the most possession-based system for most of the season anyway, so though our stats for our midfielders are a bit skewed from that, but Fernandes for the whole season was playing in a team low block, and considering that, like those stats being as high as they are, is very impressive.
Who was West Ham's manager at the start of the season last year?
It was Potter for like 3 games.
Was it just 3 games?
Yeah, it was 3 games.
So yeah, it's very interesting, and I am very much encouraged by those stats for Fernandes. Not that I needed encouragement, but I am more encouraged because when you take into the context of him being in a Nuno side and then him still showing these really strong numbers, they're going to go up leaps and bounds under De Zerbi.
And what's encouraging for Tonali is that he's obviously in a more attacking or possession-based system, kind of with Newcastle compared to our teams anyway. And his numbers are in general more in line with McAllister and Caicedo than they are to our midfielders. So it's showing he's already close to that level right now, where Caicedo and McAllister were.
Even compared to Eddie Howe to Tonali, it's still night and day in terms of how they.
De Zerbi
and De Zerbi, how they're going to play their football.
Exactly, but obviously it's a bit more on the front foot than we were. And his stats are already quite close to where McAllister and Caicedo were under. And also this is Tonali and not his best season as well. You've got to take that into account. And the final one they've compared is, chances created and take-ons with Tonali and Fernandes with our midfielders last season. If you go to the next one. And obviously, no surprise for Tonali and Fernandes. Pretty much, so when it comes to chances created, I think both of them are more than all of our midfielders combined. Am I right in saying that?
You are, yeah.
I think that's 21 plus 16, 37. So Tonali is more than Sarr, Gray, Palini and Bentancur combined. Fernandes not quite, but close.
Still, it tells a story, doesn't it?
Tells a story, yeah, exactly. When it comes to them picking up the ball in the final third, you would back them to create something and do something, create a chance or do something with the ball, compared to those 4 who really struggled when they got into the final third.
Is this solely chances created all season?
Yeah.
So, you
obviously take into account the game time.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm about to say. Like the game time. Tonali and Fernandes started every single game pretty much.
Yeah.
Paulinho was in and out of the team. Bentancur had big injury. Gray in and out the team. Sarr in and out of the team. You know what I mean? So it's a bit skewed a little bit.
Yeah, I think you would have to really see the per 90 to really know. But I think the point still stands that they're going to be much better in the final third, I think, than Sarr, Gray, Paulinho and Bentancur. In my opinion. Sure. And I think the fact that the chances created are that much higher. I know it's total, so it is a bit skewed, but I think it tells a bit of a story. And as well, take-ons complete, you see Tonali way out in front compared to those other midfielders. I think it's more when you're looking at Bentancur, Palini, who obviously had a lot of game time for us. You look at their take-ons and look at Tonali. And also Fernandes, who's close to, just under Bentancur, way out in front of Palini. Again, that it just goes to show how much better they are at being on the ball, taking it forward in those dangerous areas compared to the midfielders we have now, who just seemed scared to do that last season and didn't have the ability to. So I think what we learned from what they've shown, big up to the Premier League for producing these graphs and stats. What we've shown is what De Zerbi's vision is when it comes to the midfield, getting players who are getting the ball forward more comfortable taking people on and driving the ball forward, but also not losing out off the ball when it comes to physicality, turnovers, ball recoveries, duels won, all that kind of stuff. So that is why we've earmarked these 2 midfielders as massive upgrades on what we have, because you don't lose anything off the ball, but you just gain so much off the ball.
Yeah, it's
on
clear.
The ball. Sorry,
it's clear for everyone to see that these two guys are really going to, we've done videos before about revolutionising the midfield, but these two really are going to revolutionise what we can do at midfield, because the players just weren't fit for purpose that we had before last season. You had no forward-thinking players there, really, that can play in a double pivot. So don't take it for granted. These guys are going to revolutionise what we can do in midfield under Roberto De Zerbi next season, and I cannot wait. So big up for those stats. And we're going to finish off doing some comments.